5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Did that backwards.
It's fine.
I was supposed to clap and then do 3, 2, 1.
It's all right. Can we roll with it?
I'm doing it right now. We're
All
live.
All right.
That's a big rookie
We're back
mistake.
again. Yeah.
What's going on, man?
A couple weeks off, and you forgot how to podcast.
How many weeks did we take off? Like 4?
It was at least 2, but I kind of...
It was more than that.
Was it?
Oh, yeah, about 3. I think it was 3.
Because it was the camper thing, right?
Yeah, so
where
we
you
had
went to
Matt.
get it.
Yeah, we had Matt on there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it was 3 altogether.
Right.
I don't know about you, man, but I was fiending to come back.
It seemed like it's been forever. I was like, I forgot. I almost forgot how to get here.
This is what divorce must feel like. You know, like it hurts in the beginning, and then you just get used to it. I was like, we are not going to go another week without doing something like this. I have to purge the mind.
People were asking me about it over the weekend because I met up with some friends, and a few of them didn't know or didn't either didn't know about it or wanted to know more. So I was trying to tell them, where to go to get it and everything like that. And it started. That's when it really started sinking. I'm like, man, I feel like I haven't done one in forever.
Yeah. Sometimes I get like anxiety. Like if we don't do it for a while, like I'll have that dream where like just everything goes wrong, and then you wake up, no, and I'm safe.
Yeah.
Like I come down here and the poster had fallen. I don't remember what could have made that fall off the wall, but some divine intervention that came off. As long as Eye Candy Randy was okay.
Yeah,
he seems to be unscathed.
He's in good spirits too. I could tell.
Yeah, you know what we should do? We're gonna put it out there. I'll put it out on Facebook this week. What we can do with Eye Candy Randy now.
His next evolution.
Yeah, so like, what's he gonna wear? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we'll let people dress him up, and then I'll go get the stuff and put it on.
I mean, I feel like like dressing him up like Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, that would be a good one.
With some cheesy '80s glasses and some leopard print or something.
Yeah,
might be
do that.
Might be a good start as far as coming up with ideas. But
he's laid back. I mean, he just goes with the flow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he doesn't. What mic are you on? Say something real quick.
Something.
Number 3. All right, we're gonna get rid of number 2. Because I can hear it coming through that mic a little bit. It's weird. Sometimes it does that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just very, very faint.
Yeah.
And there's only supposed to work in the middle, but technology, it's not always your friend.
Yeah.
What are you drinking tonight?
So this is a new one. It was something that a friend of mine showed me. He sent me a picture of it. He had about 5 cases of it in the back of his car, and told me I should come over. But it's Canteen Spirits. I'd never heard of it before, but it's supposedly basically a vodka seltzer. They call it vodka soda. So I mean, there's a million of those seltzers out there.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like I think they're like a malted alcohol, I think. And then they just, put some artificial sweetener in it. And this supposedly is supposed to be actual vodka watered down to the, 10th degree because it's 5% alcohol by volume. So, I mean, alcohol typically is, 40%. So you'd have to water it down, I guess, 8 times more than you would.
To
get to the 5%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I guess my favorite thing about it has nothing to do with the vodka part, even though I am a fan of vodka. Is it has a lot less of that fake sugary, the aspartame or phenylalanine kind of aftertaste, which I really don't like. This one tastes more like a regular seltzer.
Does it really?
Yeah. Like a Polar or, whatever. And I drink cases of that a week. So this is it could get dangerous, I guess, if I get confused, but to me, it tastes like I'm drinking a seltzer, which I love the flavor of. So
yeah, I'll have to try one before we go. I want to say that's the same company that I tried this week, although the packaging looks a little bit different. But I want to say that was the same one, roughly. So the guy over here at Luke's in Palmer.
Oh, is that the guy who always recommends stuff to you and everything? Yeah,
I've been trying to get this guy in the podcast literally since the day we started this thing. And he's just like, nope, not coming on. And it's such a shame because he is such a brilliant guy. Like the stuff that he knows will just knock your socks off. and I'm so impressed by him, and he just seems to know about everything. Like he just got his liquor license after 14 years of applying for a license, but it goes by like the per capita of the town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because there's only they only allow a certain amount and all that. So
Yeah.
this is a new place then, or just a new guy?
So he's been here forever, but he was only doing beer and wine.
Oh, okay. So
So
just
he
got his liquor license.
Just got his liquor
Okay,
license,
all right.
yeah. So apparently we have enough people in town now.
Or someone closed.
No, so it was
It was an addition?
It was an addition. Because I said to him, "When did someone die to get your license?" He goes, "No, it's the people." You know, and this town, man, is a weird town. I know I like living here, but we don't allow anything in here. You know, we've had so many opportunities over the years to have different businesses come in, and I get it. You want to keep the small town appeal. Duly noted, man. That's why I moved out here. But at the same time, we have to kind of go with the flow a little bit and be a little bit more on the, like business minded. And I could have sworn I shut that phone off earlier. And it's a shame because our taxes keep going up.
Yeah,
We have nothing to offset it.
Not getting that business tax revenue, yeah.
And the only thing that I definitely voted against was the casino. Where I live, they were going to build a big parking lot up on top of the hill.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot for what was proposed.
Yeah, and I just think the elements wouldn't have been good. You know what I mean? So that I'm okay with. It's the other stuff. Like we have a water park that was supposed to come in, didn't happen. They brought in a racetrack that's so far removed from where we are, but people complain about it all the time. It's like you're not going to.
Is it open? I didn't realize it ever even opened. I thought
The racetrack?
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely open.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you can hear them every once in a while. Like,
Yeah.
You got to really be paying attention, but you can see all the people that are trailing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I knew there was a whole bunch of problems or objections to it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought it was one of those things that got nixed. But
It's right across the street from the gun club, so
Okay.
it's in a perfect spot for both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And here's the reality: you live over there, you should understand. Like you're gonna hear that's.
it's like me. Where I live, I got C5s flying over me every single day. Like, and people when they're talking to me on the phone, they understand every once in a while. I'm gonna be like, all right, you're gonna give me like a minute because I'm not gonna be able to hear you, and you're not gonna be able to hear me.
And that's with the new engines
Yeah.
that they dumbed down.
Oh, and it didn't make a difference.
We were never on the flight plan over here. And every so often now, and it seems to be a more regular thing, those planes are coming over. And some of these guys are flying pretty low, which is surprising because, we're a good, not half an hour, but 15 minutes away from Chicopee.
Yeah, it's 10 miles, I think.
Door to door.
Yeah, it's
plus to the base.
Yeah. And
some of these things are screaming over, man. And, sometimes I'll be in the hot tub looking up and I'm like, that guy's a little low.
it's at least probably once a month. I'm like, this one sounds like it's going to crash. Like,
I'll never forget when we lived in Springfield. We lived over by the Liberty Plaza, and I was outside. The wife was inside getting ready, and I don't know where we were going, but we were young. And a jet fighter came over the house, and I don't know if it was on accident or purpose. I don't know. I'm not a pilot. I don't know how you make but he broke the sound barrier. And
so the sonic boom just.
Oh my God! I hit the deck because I thought something bad happened.
Yeah.
And he was already gone.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. So it rattled the house so bad. She comes flying out from the bathroom. What the hell was that? I'm like, I don't even know what that was. Like, I heard them flying around before. Yep. And then it came out in the newspaper that a whole bunch of people had broken windows and, if anything happened, call the
Yep.
base. But I can remember when I was young, I was at a keg party right behind Liberty Plaza. And it was the night that we had, it must have been Desert Storm.
Yep.
It was one plane after another, after another, after another. And I looked at my buddy. I go, we're going to war. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you've ever seen this? We've been living here our entire life.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this many planes take
Oh,
off?
it got the activity in every type of plane. Like C5s was like a normal thing.
Yeah.
But you started seeing everything coming in and leaving. Like, fighter jets. I mean, there was, some bombers and stuff. Like, it was pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's scary. And I can remember one time we were at Zot Park, and I was my brother-in-law, and he works on C5As. And he looks up and he goes, "Something wrong with that plane." Like, what? Like, it's all in the distance. And it's nighttime. I go,
Yeah.
I go, come on. He's like, I'm serious. That's not a regular pattern he's flying. And sure enough, the landing gear was messed up. We found out the next day. So they did eventually get it down.
Yeah, but he was
was,
flying, basically just circling until he could try to get it unjammed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine flying something that big, first of all? It's just insane, like the mechanics of these things that can get these things off the ground.
Yeah.
Just boggles my mind. And if something goes wrong in one of those behemoths, you know, especially if they got tanks inside, I mean, the amount of product that these things can hold is just...
Oh, yeah, it's unfathomable. Like, you know, if you've been to the air show and they give you like the little fact card, where it's like it can hold this many golf balls, and like some of the stuff, it's like, how's that even possible? Like, and it, like, not even just having like a warehouse that holds that, is impressive. And then this thing flies. It's a flying warehouse, you know, or a flying aircraft carrier, like, or, you know, flying. Well, it's bigger than a tractor trailer. You know, I forget. You know, I'm sure it's on the fact card how many tractor trailers you can fit inside a freaking C5. It's. I
used to know how many buses you could fit, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did know that for a number of years. But so I was with somebody over the weekend, and he does quality assurance for the engines that I believe it was the F-35. Is that our new plane?
I don't know.
I
know there's a couple new fighter jets out there.
We'll look it up. I think that's the new plane, and he was telling me, and I get fascinated with stuff like that. And he was the F-15 E6. I don't remember that being the new plane.
Yeah, so they're still on a 15.
I could have sworn he said it
revamped
was
one.
I guess. I could have sworn he said it was an F-35. I'll have to ask him again. I could definitely be wrong. But he was telling us that what goes into making an engine. And I was just like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, it's amazing how devastating we can be as a race.
Yeah.
Or in our culture. Like, there's so much violence. And
but be that advanced.
Yeah. Right?
And, you know, but here's the biggest thing. We push to be so advanced
to do violence.
Like, that's where all the money goes for research. That's where, like, so it's like, you know, it's a race to who can be the worst.
Isn't it? It boggles your mind how we can become like that. You know, it was I remember that movie AI with the boy from
Oh, that was like a CGI one, right?
Yeah. So I can remember when the aliens finally dug him onto the bottom of the ocean, and he said something to the effect like, you know, you're capable of so many good things, but yet this is what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's true. Like, we can be so violent and destructive, and
I mean, you know.
It's all about the dollar. That's where the whole greed and
look at all the money that's spent on that. And if we were all just at some point like, hey, listen, you do your thing, I'm gonna do my thing. You know, we can stop spending all this money. No one would ever be hungry. We'd all be living in mansions. I mean, that's a literal statement. You know, if you look at the globally trillions that are spent on things like defense, you know, we'd already be on Mars.
Yeah.
You know, because more money would have been put into space exploration and all that. We'd already be a green planet. You know, like all this stuff, because all, you know, and I'd actually be interested to see on a percentage basis the amount of GDP globally on a percentage, you know, is put just towards defense. Because I know for us, it's like, I don't know, something stupid, like 25 or 30%.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I'll look it up right now.
So it's like half the world's money goes to that, and obviously, you know, we're spending it within ourselves, and, you know, I mean, it recycles eventually out into normal stuff. But even if that were cut in half.
All right, so the value of military spending globally has grown steadily in the past years and have reached $1.92 trillion US dollars.
Yeah, so $2 trillion.
That's globally. I mean, I think we spend like more on.
Oh, we're like half that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or more than half.
No, it's like 900 billion, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Stupid.
So we do as of 2020, $778 billion was dedicated to the
So
military.
not far off half.
So that constituted for 39% of the total military spending worldwide.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So $2 trillion.
And every year we just give more.
Imagine what the world could do with $2 trillion
Yeah.
to fix a whole lot of other problems.
So let's look. I don't know if anybody follows Jimmy Dore out there, but shout out to Jimmy Dore. And he's an absolutely outstanding guy. You know, he talks a lot about money, where money goes, and how he could fix things with, and he's pretty precise with the amount of money. If like Jeff Bezos gave, like, I forget the number is, which is literally a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
He could end hunger in the United States. I mean, one person has that kind of power.
That's a couple billion, probably. Honestly,
It's
like what he earns in a week.
It's crazy.
Like, and the crazier part is, like, he's one of the people that hasn't taken like any philanthropic steps yet.
Right.
Where some of the others are just like, it's all going to charity and half of it's going now. At least a handful of them. I don't think Musk has done so much yet, but it's because he spends billions and billions. I mean, dude's living in a tiny home right now.
Yeah, it's not. I found that absolutely fascinating, and they showed a picture of it.
It's like 200 square feet.
It's small.
It's like this.
I wonder what sparked him off. Like, was that finally the day he walks in the office? He's like, you know what? I'm done living in a mansion. I mean,
no, it was California.
Well, California is just turning into a
So he got
it's
got pissed
imploding.
off at a bunch of different things, tax structuring, and he's just like, I'm taking everything out of here, and they're like, whatever, and he did. Like, all his stuff went up for sale like the next day, and and then he's just next thing you know, he's living in a tiny home in Texas.
And I think we're all going to be there soon.
Yeah,
Texas is becoming the new, like, Joe Rogan's going there. He's trying to recruit as many people as he can to go there. And
I went to Texas last year, so right before things started getting kind of shut down. My son had
you got me one of those,
a gymnastics,
please. Now you got me curious, and the black cherry is probably one of my favorite seltzers.
My son,
Here, cheers.
cheers. My son had a gymnastics tournament down there, so we went down there. It's my first time ever like spending any time in Texas other than like flying through. It's good, right,
dude? That is awesome.
I'm
We're
telling
talking
you,
about black cherry, guys. This is black cherry on steroids.
it's good,
Good
right?
call, man.
No
Yeah.
weird aftertaste,
No,
really.
no, no. I was waiting for the it's not so cherry flavor, but
Yeah,
that hits you right in the cherry button.
yeah.
Like, it's no joke. What's this, 5% alcohol?
Yeah.
I can't go wrong. And, as I get older, I don't mean to cut you off from your.
Nope.
We'll get back there, but I don't know. Did I tell the story yet about how I threw up?
Maybe.
I might have said something on the air, but a couple weeks ago we did a podcast, and I drank one.
When you threw up.
I got sick that day.
Yeah. I don't think you talked about it on the podcast.
All right, so I'll talk about it now because it was absolutely hilarious. It wasn't funny at the time, but it was funny now. But so we had a couple of MMA guys on, and I had one shot glass. I don't know if it was even a full shot glass of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
And a thing of Coke. Halfway through the podcast, I start looking at Brett, and I'm like giving him the eye, like, I'm fading out, dude. And he's looking at me like, what the hell's going on? And we just weren't communicating. Like, I couldn't say it. I could have actually just said,
Yeah.
because we could have edited it out, but I was trying to save my face in the podcast. And then finally I just looked at him like, all right, dude, we got to shut it down. And you gave me that look like, okay, what's going on? And then I'm like, can you show them out? And then I go in the other room and I just started throwing up, like violently throwing up. And I went to bed. I mean, I was in the can when you left. I didn't know which end was coming out of. I had a bucket one hand. I'm on the shitter, and I went to sleep. And my wife's like, I got up in the morning. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I did. I felt great. She's like, "I was never like more worried about you because it's not like you to get sick.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not like you to get that far."
You thought it might have been like a food thing too, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was a food thing. I had some pork chops that
Yeah.
I let stay in the fridge a little bit too long.
Yeah.
But the weird thing was I got this pain that went up right above my eye. and I get that every now and then. I mean, you know me, I'm not really a drinker whatsoever, but it seems to be like the bourbons, the whiskeys, those things, not agreeing with me very well.
So like the next day or like while you're drinking?
Yeah, while I'm drinking.
Oh yeah, that's weird. Oh, yeah.
It's that quick.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it came on so fast. And boy, that was awful, man. I was violently throwing up. And it was just like I didn't think it was going to end.
Oh yeah, because we were sitting there like, and you're just like, I'll be back, and you ran off, and that was when Nate was here, right?
Yeah.
I think, and we're just looking at each other, and I think we heard it. We're like, oh, all right, I guess yeah, that explains the sweating.
I felt so bad, and Nate texted me in the morning. He's like, I hope you're all right, dude. I apologize. I've never had that happen. So number one, I stay away from that stuff now. This I'll do a little bit, but I tried some of these over the weekend. One had a little bit of rum in it.
Yep.
And then the other one must have had vodka in it. And I had one, and that's all I can stomach, man. I don't know what it is. My body just.
It's not a bad thing.
No, but
it could be because of a bad thing, but it's also not a bad thing that you're drinking less. So
I'll definitely live a little bit longer. But I miss the fact that I want to come home once in a while and have that, that little drink on some ice and be able to enjoy that, because I loved whiskey.
Yeah,
I was a big Crown Royal fan. Nothing beats like coming home on a Friday night, cigar in one hand, on the deck with a drink.
Velvet robe.
Yeah, just like living it on, my fuzzy bunny slippers and just living life, and it was relaxing, and I miss that. But my body literally just says, you're not doing that, dude.
Yeah.
We're going to make you throw up.
We're going to put a hard stop on this one right now.
So we'll see what happens with this thing. I mean, nothing happened to me on Saturday. But again, it was one can.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, I'm done. And I guess when I was young, it was just ripping it 7 days a week. Maybe that's what caught up to me.
It does catch up. It definitely does catch up.
I don't know how far I can keep that going, but I cut you off earlier. So what were you saying before?
Oh, we were talking about Texas tonight. So I got to visit last year, for my first time ever. And it was like, I was a big fan of the state. I mean, first of all, the amount of, you can see the development, like and they have the land to do it. Like everywhere you go, like there was just these, and this was the coolest part, these perfect highway structures. Like the way, it was all grid work, but it was oversized grid work, not like, so it was like Chicago on a grander scale, things were more spaced out.
Right.
But most of it was just, there was nothing there. Like you could tell their infrastructure was designed to to handle probably the next 50 years of development. So they don't have
not like the Mass Pike.
Yeah, so they don't have like Boston. Obviously, Boston streets were designed, hundreds of years ago when cars weren't even a thing. But now it's a shit show because it's so damn big. They're like 100 years from now, we're not going to have a problem still. Like everything's 4-6 lanes, 2 turning lanes every direction. But you're looking and there's not even a ton of buildings.
Right.
There's some popping up here and there, but you're like, man, they're way ahead. Like when they built this road, they're like, we don't want to touch this thing again, like ever. We don't want to have to like eminent domain some stuff or whatever. It was impressive. And, everyone was super friendly. I mean, probably some of the nicest people I've ever dealt with.
Yeah.
We did, we were tied up a little bit with the gymnastics thing. And, and of course you can't, Texas isn't really like a see it all in one visit type state because it's so damn big. I mean, if you're going, it's like, I'm going to go to Houston this time and I'm going to go to Dallas this time because everything's like 10 hours apart.
Right.
And we were only there for a long weekend, I think. So it was like we did, we were in Dallas and then we went to Stockyards, I don't know, whatever. It's like a more historic. They do still running of the steers down the, down the road every day at noon and shit. But we got to see the bull riding and stuff, and freaking place was awesome. Like all the bars were cool, the restaurants were fantastic. Like anytime I go someplace cool, like on the flight home, I start looking at real estate and stuff. I'm like, let me see.
Could you move? Like, could you physically or mentally prepare yourself to move? Because I think about that a lot. Like, I just feel very tied down in the state, and I feel like like my goals are not what the rest of the state sees.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also think we have a lot of great things going on in this state, which kind of makes me not want to move.
Yeah.
But I want to go to and I hate to say it, but I'm just gonna say it. I just want to go to a more freer state.
Yeah.
Where I can not feel so bogged down, and I think Texas is becoming that pinnacle.
Yeah.
Of but I don't know if I could do this. I think I have too many people that I care about that are here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the conundrum.
Well, I mean, technology, these days, if you have those bonds, I mean, obviously it's nothing beats, the face-to-face, conversation thing. But I mean, at least there's a little bit of, relief there, I guess. As far as me, yeah, and it has nothing to do with, that I don't like Massachusetts. I mean, I think any state you go to is going to have its issues, and, it really just depends on kind of specifically what's most important to you, and then you start to see the pros and cons start to magnify or reduce. But I want to be, I want to have more land. I want to have less neighbors.
That's how the older I get,
yeah,
the more I want that.
And we looked at moving. When my first son, I think, was still pretty young, I actually almost bought a general store up in like Northeast Kingdom, Vermont.
Did you really?
Yeah. We went up there, looked at it, talked to the owners, and it was a pretty good opportunity. And we were just kind of gun shy, because it was going to be a huge change. We both had careers at Circuit City, and it was, making a decent income. And we're talking about not only making a huge investment, but then walking away from,
right.
2 incomes to go do something we've never done before. And I had a little tough time swallowing that. I'm not so risk averse, but that was like over the threshold.
Yeah.
And so we ended up not doing it. And we talk about, not that we regret not doing it, but talk about how different things would certainly be, because
Sure.
it would be an entire different trajectory on our lives. And then there's a few other opportunities that popped up. But now the main thing that's holding me back from moving is that my kids are, deep within the school system.
Yeah, you don't want to.
I just don't want,
uproot 'em.
I never want it to be, and I never had to be, but I never wanted it to be that. One time, actually, they redistricted, and I was like in 3rd grade, and I got moved from one school to another. So it was all new kids,
Yep.
except for like one. And like, that sucked, and
Sure.
I would meet kids that were like, military brats, or just their parents, moved a lot for different reasons. And I like felt so bad for them. I'm like, man, like, especially for me, we already talked about like how I'm like, a bit of an introvert. Like even then, I think that might've been, well, that not definitely wasn't why, like I started kind of, I was always just basically a freaking clown in school, but, that was tough for me. Like one easy transition. It was the only one I ever had to make, except when you just progress through the schools. And like, I don't want to do it to my kids. Like
Yeah, it's tough.
And my oldest son, he's already ready to start traveling the country. So he's got, no ties. He just bought a van. He's converting it.
Oh,
And
did he really?
him and his girlfriend going to live in a van
Good for him.
and drive around the country. So like, he's already got my mindset. And the other two are just like, yeah, whatever, so once even they would probably come with us if we start, if we move or whatever, but I just, it's just the school piece where I don't want to have them make new friends or be awkward or, other than that, like, then it's just career based. Like if I can, either be remote or get a similar same job with, same benefits somewhere else. But other than that, no, I'm already gone, man.
Mentally, you're checked out.
Yeah.
For me, it's the weather too. Like the older I get, man, the more I can't stand the snow. And it's last year that seemed like to go on forever, man. I was looking something up real quick. So this is back from 2010. I really can't see. Here we go. I don't know why they give you shitty numbers. So fastest growing states in 2021. Any guesses?
Fastest growing.
The number one. Any guesses what that one is?
Well, you said Texas was up there, so
Idaho
Idaho.
is one of the fastest growing. Where is this from? This is from. I don't even know where this is from. It doesn't say. It was the first search engine on Google.
Yeah.
Arizona's number 2.
Yes, actually, I did know that. Huge, and it's a lot of Californians
Are moving over.
moving to Arizona. Yeah.
Nevada,
Okay, I can see that too. There's a lot of good tax benefits of being in Nevada and Arizona, I think.
Utah. So we're starting to see a picture.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the area is really cool. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm actually I'll be out there next week. Yeah.
Utah, yeah.
Colorado, but
Colorado,
I'll head into Utah. There's a few things I want to see there.
I had a real bad problem when I went to Colorado with the elevation. It kicked my ass for a little bit.
It can whoop you. Yeah, it's
I never drank so much water in my life and felt like I didn't drink a drop.
It's funny. That's like we joke about that, and I'm sorry, especially if, actually my family in California in Colorado will get a kick out of it. But anytime I've been out there, as soon as they find out you're not local, are you drinking the water? Are you drinking the water? And the other thing is, don't drink at elevation until you've kind of, partially because of that,
Right.
And it was weird. The first time I went out there, it was for a wedding. So like it was real fast paced. So we landed. I think the wedding was like that night or the next night, but there was like, if it wasn't that night, there was like a pre-wedding celebration. So, we're putting them back and everyone's like, oh, be careful. You're at elevation, drink the water and all that. And the wedding was at the top of the ski mountain in Steamboat.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
it was like 15,000 feet, and no problems. When I went back a couple years later and, we're just, partying and everything. And, same comments. I'm like, last time I came, I was fine. I woke up in the middle of the night and it felt like someone was driving a railroad spike into my forehead. It woke me up. And it was like my head was being split in half, and I'm like crawling to the fridge to like drink anything I could. It was the worst experience of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, no more.
We stayed at this huge hotel. I want to say it was, I don't want to say what it was because I'm going to say something in a minute. It was their first time they were open. And I was there for work. And, the initial onslaught of us coming in there, we'd take over the whole place. It was that big, and they had a tough time. And so I go to buy a bottle of water, and it was like $13 or something like that. It was ridiculous. It was a Smart Water liter, and I looked at her. I said, "What'd you just say?" And I don't know if 13 was the number, but it was up there.
It was up there. It wasn't $3.99 or $2.99. Like
absolutely not even close.
Yeah.
And no, you know what it was? It was $15. That's what it was. It was $15. And I looked at her and I said, "You can't be serious." And she goes, "Oh, I'm dead serious." And and I start looking around me, and everybody was buying water because that's what they kept telling us. Drink, every announcement was drink water, drink water. $15. I never felt more like I was taken advantage of. Like I bought cars that I knew I was being taken advantage of that didn't sting as much as this thing did. You know what I mean? And it was just so awful.
Like you go to a concert, you expect to pay like $10 for a water.
Yeah.
You're at a hotel.
Yeah.
You don't expect to pay $15.
No. And I always make it a point to make sure, I take enough money so I can indulge a little bit while I'm there. And I remember I looked at my boss and I'm like, I got charged $15 for this. And she's like, "Yep, this is where we're at. Enjoy." In a lot of my people used to go to the supermarket when they first land.
Yep.
They go to like the nearest,
buy a couple cases or whatever,
and then bring everything back.
Yeah.
So now with like Peapod and all that kind of stuff, and I know Stop and Shop's not out there, but they have Walmarts that are out there. So if you have the app, you can do a pickup. Just drive there, and you can probably have your Uber pick it up because they have the Uber Eats and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So technology has really been a good advance for me being out in the field because once I get to the hotel, I just want to be there. Like I'm okay, I guess, with driving around, but we were in Chicago last year and we went to some really sketchy places.
Oh, you gotta be careful. Yeah,
and
Chicago.
I was a little scared, and I'm never scared about going into an area. This one had me a little bit, a little crazy.
I haven't been to Chicago in. It feels like it's got probably about 20. Well, yeah, right around 20 years, I think. Because I think the last time I went with my wife and I went together to visit some friends out there, and there were some bad parts then, like some streets and different, sections. And I talked to someone recently, who was either lived out there or was out there recently, and they're like, oh no, it's gotten much worse. And they, they know of when I was out there, they were out there then. And it was, yeah,
it's crazy. So Texas is number 5,
fastest growing. Okay. Now what is this on total? Like just like numbers of population or on a percentage basis increase?
Looks like it's percentage increase.
Okay.
So
a percentage increase in Texas could be more people than like a percentage increase in Idaho.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. South Carolina, and that's where my dad wanted to always go, and that's where he ended up.
Yep.
Florida.
Yep.
Washington, believe it or not.
Beautiful state. I haven't been there yet, but
yep, they say it's nice.
Yeah.
Delaware, and then followed up by Montana.
Montana, I get to another beautiful state.
Yeah.
They get the winters though.
Yeah.
But in Delaware, every time someone says the Delaware, I think about Wayne's World. Do you remember that scene where they're like doing the blue screen? Like, hi, we're in Delaware.
So I don't know where I'd want to move, but Texas is definitely definitely high on my priority list. And then you're talking Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
The same amount of, I think the same kind of people are moving to either one, for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're both pretty cool states. Florida, I can't say they get a bad rep. I think it's pretty truthful about all the weirdness that happens down there. The whole Florida man vibe. But, I think even though I can't say I'm growing a little less fond of winters, I kind of like the isolation that they bring, like Vermont or Maine are like top of my list. But I also kind of want to do the gypsy thing. Like I could see myself living, RV life in winter in different parts of the country, but have like a home base
right.
that's in Vermont or Maine, for the summers, because, it's absolutely beautiful up there. We were up there. Well, 4th of July weekend, a friend of ours has a cabin, like kind of up like where I was looking at the general store.
Oh, wow.
And, off grid, but it's on like an unmaintained road. So unless you're on a snowmobile, you can't get to it in the winter.
Right.
And it's just so peaceful. Like,
is.
Nothing out there. And you talk about, there's a lot more freedoms out there because nobody cares what you're doing. They can't even find you.
I used to think those people, that lived in the woods were crazy, man. But now as you get older, and it's not that I don't mind neighbors. Like I have a great neighbor. I got one of our really good friends is a neighbor down the street. Carl lives right up next street up. It's not that I don't mind neighbors. It's I think it's the noise pollution I'm starting to have a problem with. The lack of seclusion, like privacy. So like ever since COVID happened, like I live, that hill. Most people don't want nothing to do with walking up that hill. Although since COVID happened, when people were stuck in the house and needed something
Everyone's
to do,
going for a walk.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going for walks now. So this
walking
is like,
up your driveway, right into you can see into your backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing beats like when you're in the hot tub.
Yeah.
And you see, and people come by and you make that odd,
yeah.
odd eye contact.
I know
Like,
exactly
hey,
where
how
you're
you doing? Even though I got the curtains, but you put the curtains down and just, that's
now you're not outside.
Yeah, it ruins the whole thing. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
We've had some people like walk down the hill and then look at us and just start laughing because they're just as feeling awkward as we are. You know, and just wave to them like
it's like being in the bath. Basically. Yeah.
Like who's this guy standing on his deck with with shorts on and it's the middle of winter? I'm like, because the steam is just coming off. And
you have like
5 minutes of heat distribution that keeps you warm.
Yeah, that's that. I don't. Even though I talk about the introvert thing, I don't mind people. I have anything against people. Like I don't mind my neighbors. I mean, I'm not knocking on the door offering them casseroles and shit.
Right.
But they're cool and like they come talk to me and I'm never seeking a conversation with them. But if they address me, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just the noise. It's like or just I always. Not that I would ever do it, but you know, the thing that I say is I want to be able to mow my lawn naked and not have anybody see or care me, you know, see me or care.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would never mow my lawn naked, but like, that's the level of privacy that I want.
Sure.
And it's not because I, you know, anything weird is happening or I want anything weird to happen in my house. Like, I love that, like, lack of noise pollution. Like, there's nothing more peaceful. Like, the best part of where I live now, even though like it's, you know, it's in a city technically, is I don't have anyone, you know, there's neighborhoods in Chicopee where like people's backyards are butted up against each other, you know? So it's like you come out and you're staring at some other dude in his hot tub, you know? You know, I have what was a pond and now it's a stream, and it's, you know, I don't know, it's a good distance before like the next neighborhood. And I wake up in the morning and my desk is right in front of a couple windows where, you know, where I work now. And, I must hear 40 different kinds of birds, you know, and I'm probably underestimating
Sure.
it, you know, and like, it's not uncommon to like see hawks, like, you know, with just based on the view I have, like, you know, coasting across, and, you know, there's a giant tree outside, I've seen 3 different kinds of woodpeckers, you know, and like, that's so relaxing. Like, nothing beats starting your workday like that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I sit down on my laptop and like, if I look up from my laptop, that's what I see and hear. And it's like, I want that, but not hear like the whole, you know, cars driving by in the front of the house.
You know, it drives my wife nuts. You know, with her brain injury, it's noise is a huge problem for us, and you know, she'll really force herself sometimes to listen to some music, or at the camp they have the band every once in a while, and she can only stomach so much of that. And when, you know, so we're glad that our friends understand the fact that we have to walk away a lot.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back, and then, you know, last like 20 minutes, then we'll have to go back again. But I become very sensitive to the noises that she's sensitive, you know, so the minute we'll be outside and like you have that peace and quiet, all of a sudden someone fires up their leaf blower or their lawnmower. And there's a guy in the neighborhood, I can't tell where he is, but the lawnmower definitely needs to go be taken somewhere to get fixed. It goes
or shot.
And it's just constant, man. It just drives her nuts. So she'll put her ear protection on or something, or she'll go upstairs, shut the door, and put the AC on so she can't hear it. I'd like to one day give her the option of moving somewhere where I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You know, and we were camping Saturday. We got out of the camper. It just felt, I really like the fact that we can go somewhere now and get away, and we have that separation now.
Yeah.
And I allowed myself to finally, after God knows how many years, I can't relax.
Yeah.
My mind starts racing. I need to do stuff. I just said to myself, I'm not doing anything today. I'm just going to walk around. I'm just going to enjoy being here. 2 seconds later, some guy down the street fires up this huge lawnmower, and he's at it for like 2 hours. And it's probably the poor guy, probably the only time he's got to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I'm just like, we can't escape this, man.
So let me ask you this. What'd you do with your phone while you were there?
So my phone really doesn't work that much.
Okay.
So I'm
you're kind of out of service. So did you leave it in the camper?
No, I do take it with me only because of our daughter and you know, my mother and his mother.
Yep.
But I still have to work on that. That is definitely still that magnet where you look down and you're like, okay, I got to check the cameras at my house. I got to check, you know, this. I got to check, and I don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
But.
And I'm a full, like, 100% believer of like nature therapy, you know, getting out, breathing the fresh air. Like, you know, the more I get outside, the better I continue to feel. It's, you know, but that is a detractor, you know, because it kind of pulls you back in.
Yeah.
To, you know, where you're trying to escape, I guess.
Right.
And, you know, and you're an early riser, which is cool because, you know, get out in that chair and sit in front of your freaking camper as early as you can and just sit back and just like stare at the trees and shit, because there's nothing like more like peace inducing, you know, than just that. And then I say early because that's before, you know, all the other noises are happening, you know. And then but the cool thing is, at least what I find, is that as those noises start happening, you know, especially it's like, oh, that first little kid that's like running around outside, then like that becomes peaceful because it's like the one. Then, you know, the hectic, you know, in the the madness, the craziness happens later,
Right.
but those first few where it's like, well, you hear this first bird and maybe it's the first dog barking, just one dog, it's still kind of peaceful. That early morning is the best part for me.
I don't know how I got programmed to not be able to relax. I don't know when that happened. I look back.
That's retail.
You think it probably was, but from back then, yeah. Like I couldn't enjoy any holiday.
Yep.
Because you had to be at work, like especially like Black Friday, Thanksgiving with the family really meant nothing to me because I'm like looking at my watch the whole time. Like if I go
how
to
much
bed
sleep
now,
can I get? Yeah.
yeah. And then each year they would ramp up that time I had to be in.
Yeah, and the number of hours that you were going to be open.
Right.
And I worked until we were open 24 hours. I worked the whole shift every time. So it was like you knew you were in for 17, 18 hours, and then you were going to sleep 4 hours and be back for another 12. Yeah. No, it's definitely
amazing.
retail because I was not, type A personality. Well, I can't say I haven't been type A, but, I was definitely a relaxed person, probably more like I am now.
Yep.
Before retail, and then retail like wound me up. And then at one point I made a decision that it was, family based, like where I was, that was that I'm going to work to live, not live to work,
Right.
and I made that once I started having my, my kids, and that kind of started winding me back down. And then getting more into nature, we've done a lot of traveling, and it's all like nature based, all national parks. It's a lot of camping and stuff like that. And, that plus, a few career changes. I don't think I've ever been more relaxed. Like I'm almost comatose.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm getting there. The last couple of weeks was definitely a life lesson on. So I think what I'm going to do too. I've been kind of fighting with this for like the longest time. Because I firmly believe that I'm of service at work to people, but I think there has to be that cutoff point where I have a hard stop and a hard start. I've never been really good at that. In a lot of my interviews, they'll talk about what's your biggest weakness, and I always talk about I never know when to shut it off.
Yeah.
There's one more email or one more project, and and you can justify all day long to the cows come home of what you're doing.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you look at your watch and you're like, okay, great, another 12-hour day, and
Yeah.
I missed this, and that. I think I'm going to start as of Monday, letting my customers know that I'm available from 7 to 5. Unless I'm on the way home and I have hands free in the car, I'll answer the phone. But once I get home, I think that's going to be it.
Yeah, but if you're in the car, if you usually do stuff in the car, I think especially to ease that transition, don't go like drastic. So if you're usually working till like 9 and that's what they've kind of grown to expect, but you don't get home until 6:30 anyway, then make it 6:30 or make it 7. Like, you'll wind down, you'll, a few more, things, and then 7, my out of office is on or whatever, because, again, they're your customers, so it's going to be an adjustment, especially since it's always been that,
Right.
but, so I would ease it back gradually, definitely give yourself more space depending on, how late you have been working, but that'll be tough for both ends, if you cut it off, especially like I said, if you're driving home, driving home can be peaceful, I guess.
I usually throw on a podcast.
Yeah. But it also can kind of be boring, so you might enjoy but if you're really digging your podcast, then yeah, man, screw it. Cut it off.
Well, that's the thing, like I'm in the car. I consider myself still on the clock on the way home. So I would definitely answer the phone.
Yeah. For me, like work's over when I walk in the door.
Yeah.
Really. That's how I
my
was.
thing.
Yeah.
I used to know somebody that used to have what they call the problem tree. And when they used to come home, they used to have a tree in the front yard, and he always park his car right there. And he used to get out and rub his hands through the tree. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I called him on it one day. I'm like, I always see you do that. He's like, that's my problem tree. And he goes, when I get out of the car, the tree takes all my problems from work. And I leave it there. It's the tree's responsibility to deal with it from there. When I come out for the morning to go to work, I rub my hands back through the trees and I assume all that back into me again.
So it's
I deal with it.
It's his mental switch.
Yeah,
like,
and it's true. And you could see it.
mm-hmm.
Like I call it my fuck it bucket. Like I'm starting to get better at that, where I can say it's out of my control. I give it up to my higher power. And when I started doing that, like, I'm very Eastern philosophy driven, which is a conflict sometimes when you're talking to people who are very religious in a separate, more of the Christian or Catholic way. But I still think you can. So when you say I'm giving up to my higher power, you're kind of balancing that together, and people get that. And I've learned, especially over the last couple of years, that I can't control certain situations. I can only control my reaction. And I try to really project that with my customers. Like, there's certain things we're getting amped up about that we can't control. So, and we were talking earlier today about change and how change is very difficult for some people, and how, some people can roll with change and be very good at change, and other people, it just wrecks them.
Yep.
And they just can't seem to overcome those hurdles of change. What do you think? What's been because you've obviously had to change a million times, especially in retail. You always had to be on the ball. What was your key to your success with change?
So, believe it or not, I used to, buck the system, so to speak, in several different aspects of my life. And there was very little I think I gained out of like actual conferences and trainings and stuff, like the management trainings and the yearly summits and stuff that they would send us to. But there was one that was really impactful for me, and it was change. It was having a change-based mindset. And there was a lot of introspective, moments and stuff like that. And the cheesiest kind of key word phrase that came out of it that still sticks with me today. And I mean, we're probably nearing 10, 15 years since, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was be a champion of change. And that was, obviously I was in a leadership role. So it talked about, even if you don't exactly agree with what's going on, don't ever let, anybody that you have to lead see that.
Right.
If you want to talk about, some potential pitfalls or problems you're having with it, or, kind of just issues that could, even just how you feel about certain things, don't show that face to the people you're leading, because, they assume the role of their leader, so
right.
Like however you're feeling, like, you can immediately, you put a bunch of people into a room and you get to talk to the manager and you start talking to the people. You could almost even pair up, if you're talking about work-based things, what managers they work for,
right?
Because you can see it in them; they become your mirrors, right?
Yep.
And that really resonated with me. And then on the flip side, in having these conversations and kind of just seeing how that whole thing worked, because I would have that same conversation with my leaders, and then they, we would then teach it out, or cover whatever was changing with with our people. But then seeing it work on the backside, where I actually at that point had a few managers that I did work for, and we could talk about things, and it wasn't that I was like being combative or didn't want to change. I wanted to understand things better or make myself feel better with what was going on. I saw how that worked, and through all that, to make a long story long, I became so much more comfortable with just things changing and evolving, and just making the best of like whatever situation was thrown at me. So, and I think part of that was because it was, I had already been in a retail environment for a good period of time, and I continued to be there. And I started to realize it didn't really matter what I ever thought.
Right.
I just have to roll with it.
Yeah.
And then I also learned that no matter how shitty it seemed, I made it work. And that was really eye-opening. Like, oh man, like I've dealt with, and then if you look back at like your career, and you're like, man, look at all the times this changed and this changed and this changed, and then actually, you know what? I still ended up in a better place. Maybe it was with a different company,
sure.
But I still ended up in a better place.
Yep.
And then that changed, and it was like, oh, this is gonna be horrible. And it's like, oh, actually, I made that work too. So it wasn't about how I felt about change. I think it was more about how I felt about my ability to just take whatever was thrown at me, because like that had a lot of shit thrown at me, both
sure.
professionally and personally, and I'm still okay.
Yeah.
And that was it was all just me looking back at all the stuff I've dealt with. I'm like, well, there was a lot of change there, and I'm still pretty damn good. So
still alive. You know, it's the fear too. It's, you know, they say people worry about something that only 10% of what they're worried about is really going to come to fruition, right?
Yep.
And that's, some people, that's crippling. That 10% just cripples them. And don't get me wrong, I was a victim of that by my own accord for a number of years. But then I finally just said, you know what? And maybe it comes with age, and you finally, like everything, you age will teach you certain life lessons. And so I try to teach people all the time when I'm having their one-on-ones and stuff that change is inevitable. And if we don't change, we become stagnant. You know, I worked for a lot of companies that became stagnant, and they're all out of business.
Oh, yeah, so did I.
I usand to think I was the Black Plague. I go to a company
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, hey, you're going to close your doors in a few years, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, I used to get that joke, too.
And, you know, and it's true, though, but those companies, as much as they thought they were changing, they were changing for themselves and not being of service to our customers.
Failure to progress is progress to failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I could see those writings on the wall. Like, you close the first one and you kind of, because you have a lot of time to think after you close your first business, and you're like, okay, we got to replaying certain things in their head. And I think definitely the common denominator of all those where we had busy work to do all the time that had nothing to do with the customer. It was all these layers of tasks that we had to do, but no end result was really going to benefit the customer of what we could be doing.
Yep.
You know, and Michaels, when I worked for Michaels, they were actually onto some really good things, and I progressed fairly quickly in that company. But then I started seeing things where the task started to outweigh the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew eventually that was going to be my demise to leave because, and I'm okay with change. Even at that point, I was okay with change, and I was, you know, we were paid to be the drivers behind change, but then, you know, it was like, no, we're going to get rid of all the full-time people in the company, in the stores, and we're going to have key positions that are full-time. And I didn't want to have to,
want to cut some benefits dollars.
Yeah. And I didn't want to have to be the one to sit down with that many people. And because I was also the district mentor. So I supported my boss in his district, and I would have to go do that with him in other stores. And how are we doing for time? We close?
I don't know.
I got another 10 minutes.
I don't know exactly when we started, but yeah.
10 minutes. Okay.
Oh, I just need 3 minutes at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
That's all I need.
We'll be done before that. You know, so I wouldn't say I obsess about that markers, but I do pay attention to those markers. And if I start seeing those again, then I know, okay, this might be we're in for a bumpy road. But, you know, you look at some of the companies that have customer service down to a science, and how did they get so efficient, and how did other companies just have a blind eye? You know, and I can say that not being a CEO of a company, you know, I have all the bright ideas, but, you know, I'm not in the position to, you know, my old boss used to tell me, everybody wants to be the DM until you're the DM, or everybody wants to be the store manager until you're the store manager. You know, and I remember having this conversation with one of my subordinates one time, and she's like, God, you must make so much money. So I start laughing, and my assistant manager, who was a real good guy, shout out to Lance Chernak, he started laughing, right? And so he turns to her and he goes, well, what do you think he makes? Well, you got to make well over 6 figures a year. And I go, well, I mean, that's a possibility. I said, but how many hours do you think I work?
Yeah, I used to do that all the time. I never talked about the number, but I would do the math, and I would show them the end result, like divided by how many hours I actually work. Yep. I'm like, you know, I don't make much more than you per hour.
And they would always look at you like the eyes wide open and mouth like, really? And so the next question is, why do you do this then? You know, and then I go into the whole thing like, this is the natural progression. I get to build a team. I said, so when I come to work every day, we break these barriers and we do all these great things. That's what gives me satisfaction. You know, yeah, can I go flip burgers and be just as happy? Sure. But it does give me, it pays me monetarily so I can have a better quality of life.
Yep.
You know, like my son, they wanted to promote him at work a little while ago, and he said no. So he called me up. I'm like, dude, you're already there. And you're pretty much doing what that guy's responsibility was.
Get paid for it.
Just get paid for it.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do it, you know, and I don't want to knock him
because then it's
for it.
required. I'm like, then he's probably on the hook for it.
Right.
Yeah. and he didn't want the responsibility. So I mean, he's already in a different place.
Yeah.
He's happy with his quality of life and doesn't want to. Yeah. So I mean, good for him. Even if it was a good opportunity, he made the choice that felt right. So
yeah, and I always was fascinated by some people who had the guts to say up front, like, I don't want your gig. I'm perfectly happy what I'm doing, but I'm gonna be really good in this position. Yeah. And we need guys like that and women like that. We definitely need them. I just couldn't be stagnant. I always had to be driving forward. And but I see some of my friends that are this age now, and they've hit the peak.
Yeah.
And now they're like, you know what? I did it. Now I just want to. I think we talked about that a little while ago. Like, I want to be really good at what I'm doing, and I don't necessarily know if I want the next phase.
Yeah,
of,
like I'm close. I'm always moving forward, but like, now I've gotten to the point where, like, as long as I'm developing myself, personally, and I feel a little more enriched, it's not about like the salary or the title. So like, I'm finding different ways to grow myself, even if it's not growing my career, cause I keep teetering with, if my boss's job were to open up, because, I know she has a plan and she wants to move, and she's very capable of that, or, I have plenty of management experience, and now I'm more tenured and I have a pretty good organizational knowledge where I'm at. I could start posting outside of my department, and take on some supervisory roles there. But I also see like the extra stress that, my direct boss is under, and the little bit extra time, and she probably puts in way more extra time than she admits to.
Sure.
And I'm like, I don't know how much that's worth to me, so could I do it, but for me, in some aspects I'm taking a step forward, but then I'm taking a step back, to the time I have for myself and all that thing, so monetarily I'm comfortable. Could I use a few extra bucks? Sure. But is it worth what I think is ahead of it? I constantly toy with that now. It's not that I can't do it, and it's not that I'm peaked. It's, I don't know if I want to that's almost like the other side of the mountain.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things about having these conversations is I love the fact that my brain always goes back to certain situations. Like, so we had Elizabeth on a while ago, and we were kind of on her about going to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
And you had that spark. Let's try to get that. But then I thought about it. I had some time to stew, and I was like, I get what she's saying.
Yeah.
And I respect it. And she's probably okay with it at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
I always get worried, like, if I say no, am I going to regret that going forward? Because I can't stand that. That's like, I would rather do it, maybe fail, but know that I did it, than to not do it and have to say, oh my, like, look back at every single chance I get going, I could have done that, that would drive me mental.
See, for me, like, if I'm gonna do it and I make the decision not to, it's because I already know I could have.
Yeah.
So I'm similar, except I find the peace afterwards. Like, I don't regret it. Like, if I made the decision, it's not because I questioned whether or not I was capable. It's just I decided it wasn't right for me before I knew without a doubt, before it got proved to me. And so I don't. There's been very few things. I probably the one that is the biggest one would be that general store, where now, after having my own business for 10 years, and seeing the way it grew and how I was able to manage that, and that was while a good part of it was while both my wife and I were working full-time careers,
right?
And I still made it work. Now, like, that one,
That's the one.
Yeah. But that was more of like a long-term financial decision. Like, this is a lot of money, and, could this hurt me in my goal to when I want to not work at all anymore? That one, I don't know. That one I don't think would not have been answered unless I did it.
Right.
But the business part of it and being able to make it be a success and all that, I absolutely could have. And I second guess myself and the financial part of it. And I don't know which one weighed more, but that was definitely part of it. So that's one of the very few where I'm like, I kind of wish I did or should have tried it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, the rest of them, I'm just like, I have no doubt that I can do this. I've proven that I can do
Well, I think that's
everything else.
You just brought up a great point. Like when you look back and say, well, especially like when you have something ahead of you and you're like, you're going through that mental turmoil. Can I do it? Whatever. And then you look back and say, but I've done all bits and pieces of that. Yeah, this is a new adventure, but I've done the majority of that. Yeah, I might have to learn something new. There's fear in that, and but I have the tools to do that kind of stuff. It's just you get inside your own head, and people get really lost in their own head, and
it's
a scary place sometimes. But then when you do it, you're like, when I switched careers, I had sleepless nights, man, where I should have been sleeping better, knowing that I was out of a toxic environment. But then I have all this, I got to fly, I got to travel, I got to meet new people, I got to and then as I started to do those things, I just carried those tools around with me that I had.
Yep.
And those situations became less and less scary. And now 3 years in, it's a piece of cake for the most part.
It goes back to, the change thing I was talking about. Like, if you look at everything you've done, there's nothing you can't do.
Right.
I'm gonna copyright that, by the way. Just came up with that. And that's kind of how I look at when stuff gets thrown at me. I'm just like, whatever, some of it sucks, and I either feel that I'm prepared to deal with it, or I just get prepared to deal with it. I don't know. It's
right.
I know I have my family. I can't say drive my family crazy, but they kind of like. I also don't want to say they look up to me, but I guess they admire my outlook on life and how I deal with things. Like, I don't get worked up about shit. If the only things I get worked up about is if someone's threatening, me or love or ones I love, or that's you see a completely different me.
Oh yeah.
But everything else, this is how I react to pretty much everything. This is how I talk all the time. I don't raise my voice. I don't, and I just take it one day at a time, and I don't carry shit with me. I flip switches off left and right for, work, life. Like, I wish I could bottle like what goes on up here and sell it. Cause I talk to, people like you, where it's like, you can't turn it off. You can't sleep. Like, just different things. I don't have any of that. I wish I could explain it, and because people who have the things that I feel that don't bother me explain it so well. Like, and I get what you're saying, but I don't know how to explain what's going on in my brain that's the opposite, other than it's,
Yeah, you have a great ability to prioritize.
Yeah.
And I think that's like half the battle. Like, where on my priority list is this fall? Is it highly important where it's going to directly affect me, or is this my fucking bucket?
Yeah.
And, I don't care about it because it's not going to affect me either way. Like if someone doesn't like you, cares?
Yeah. That's, I call it probably like my top, my top three or whatever, is this, whatever's happening, is it going to affect, is it going to, hurt someone that I love in, in danger, in peril or whatever? No. Okay. Is it going to affect my ability to provide for my family? Well, maybe, but, hopefully there's measures in place, or I know I can go and get some kind of income, and is it going to affect my ability to, have a shelter or, or provide food? And,
yep.
That's really it's all that's really important.
It's true.
After that, I can figure everything else out.
Yeah.
Like that, it's all around me, my family and I, and just us being okay,
Yep.
And obviously friends are included in that family word. But yeah, beyond that, car dies. Okay. I'll figure it out, like job change. Okay. Place is going out of business, whatever, I can't think of anything other than what's under that umbrella that is really worth worrying about.
Right.
And I guess it's probably, I've had that mindset for so long where shit doesn't get me worked up at all, unless it's like big within my, it's going to really affect my family, badly.
I'm definitely getting there. It's just, it's going to take some more time, I think. you got to work out the bugs a little bit. You got to see how it feels, and then you know, I got to make a couple changes, and I'm okay with those changes. That's the thing. Like, I know I'm justified in my changes, and
they affect your health. Like,
yeah. We all know how that's going right now.
Yeah.
Like, shit. All right, buddy. We are at time limit right now. Let him have it.
As always, I'll promote our family's business, IQ Inc. You can find us at iq-inc.com or on Facebook as IQ Inc. Screen print, embroidery. We can print on anything. We can embroider anything. Whatever quantities, you know, check us out. If you need anything printed, embroidered, any type of custom apparel, we got it. And as always, also want to promote my son's business, Blue Bee Apparel. He just finished wrapping up his Pride Month collection, where he was able to donate. He rounded it up $100 to the Trevor Project, which is a nonprofit that is for LGBTQ suicide prevention and education. And of course, he always donates another 10% of his profits to the Honeybee Conservancy for saving the honeybees. So he, donated out $200 of his own money, to those great causes. And there's still some of the Pride collection available. BlueBeeApparel.com. He made a few. Him and his brothers and his girlfriend got together and made some one-of-a-kind tie-dyes where they each did one, and he put those up for sale. So they're one-of-a-kind, and all the proceeds of those go to the Trevor Project. And so it was 10% of everything else, but these 5 sweatshirts, every bit of them goes to the Trevor Project. And we talk about like shutting things off and everything like that. I could be more proud of the kid for starting a business and running it for a year and donating to a great cause. But he just announced, as the Pride collection closed, that he's taken few to several weeks off to recharge and reboost his creativity. He's stepping away. He said he promotes primarily on TikTok, and he told his followers, which he's over 20,000 followers, I think now, don't expect any new content from me. Thank you for your support. I'll catch up with you in at least, a few weeks or more.
Good for him.
And he didn't even talk about it with me. He's just, I watch his videos and I like and subscribe, share, all that stuff, to help the algorithm. But I couldn't be more proud of that too. He's already, again, I guess following my footsteps, except I think at 19 years old I was already in retail and had a little different outlook.
Sure.
But yeah, so good for him, and as always, but he still has some things for sale on his website and all that. But
good for him. Yeah, he's a stand-up kid. I'm proud of him.
Dude, he's solid. Yeah, I mean, my kids are all great. I would never complain, not at all.
Yeah, we can't talk shit on a podcast. Either, so you're kind of rocking a hard place. So yeah, Rainbow Rescues. We are huge into animal rescue on this podcast. Can't say that enough. RainbowRescues.org. Again, Rainbow Rescues with an S.org. Bordeaux and Sons Flooring for all your flooring needs, based out of Ludlow, Mass. We missing anybody?
No, I don't think so.
I think that's it, right? Yeah, comes and goes.
Oh, and we can talk about
let's talk about it, end of Pride Month. But don't forget, if you give a gay a grinder from my buddy Joe Amarino, great book.
ReallyGayBooks.com, I think it was.
Absolutely. You can find it also on Amazon. Let's support Joe in his mission and what he's trying to do. He was gracious enough to come on my podcast twice.
Yeah.
Stand-up guy, love him to death. Let's support his book. He's coming out with a new one. And it's about book for trans people who basically kind of just talking about what they go through and all the turmoil, and then right to the end where they can be who they want to be and stuff like that. And I think that's awesome. You know me, I hate people who can't express themselves. I don't hate them. I hate the fact that they can't. We talk about being free and those things, and I'm really proud of him, how he's breaking those barriers down. So we learned a lot with him that day. It was. I learned way more than I thought I was going to that day. And
it was eye opening. I remember asking a ton of questions because I was, so curious about the problems that the LGBTQ community faces, like, even within themselves. That was mind blowing to me. But it was great dialogue.
Another great guest on the podcast. So I guess that's all I got, buddy. Thanks for. We were almost a month without a podcast.
I know. Yeah.
This was definitely good for me, and I needed the purge. All right. As always, peace.